Me dicen el gordo malandro desde morro, rumbo pa' Guerrero, la tierra de los cochos. Yo no soy un pocho, es hasta el copete. Que se ponga enfrente, lo tumbamos en caliente. Baby, I'm a stunner, sliding like it's butter. I'm a pulling up 6 spices in a Honda. Perfume Ferragamo y los gramos de la Mari. I don't got no kids, but these ladies call me daddy. Andamos en el caddy.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Try This Out Podcast. I'm your host, Leo. And once again, that's my primo Chino Mac. Go check out his music. I'm going to put the link in the description. And welcome back to everybody that's been checking out my content, checking out my story. Thank you guys for supporting my channel, checking out my content. And for those of you that are new, man, thank you guys for giving me a chance. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little recap real quick for the new viewers. So I got locked up when I was 16 years old. I got 12 years. With two co-defendants, two crimies, my homie Ray, my homie Oscar, went to prison at a young age. Went to prison at 16, like I said, not to repeat myself, sorry about that. But I went to a prison, got caught with some weed. I got kicked out of that prison. I went to Monroe. I caught 2 assaults there on 2 different inmates, and then I caught an assault on a correctional officer. I got kicked out of that prison. I went to Column Bay, and I got 2 assaults there. Got kicked out of that prison. I went to Walla Walla, where my very first day I caught an assault there in the chow hall. I went to the hall. I got kicked out, and I went to the West Complex. And in D unit, when they very first opened up these units, I caught an assault there, and this is where I'm at in this moment in time. Yeah, it sounds pretty crazy when I say it, man. All these assaults, all these fights that I got into. But yeah, man. So I'm sitting in the hole, and in this hole in Washington State Penitentiary. They built these new units, right? And that, not units like the West Complex, but new units for IMU, Intensive Management Unit, where they send us, when you're doing long-term isolation. But there was no outside yard. What they did was they made like this long. You go into, it's pretty much like an extended phone booth, man. You don't have nothing in there. So the purpose was for so they don't have to take you outside. They don't have to escort you outside. They have to put a fence outside and things of that nature. So what they did was, so they let you go in this little room, right? And the room is kind of like extended. And at the end of the room, there's these little slits in the wall. Excuse me. There's these little slits in the wall, 2 of them, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. So it was a total of 4, and they have a bunch of metal with little holes, and they consider that you being outside. It's crazy, but yeah, they consider you getting fresh air from the outside. Just have those little holes, so you don't go outside at all when you're in that hole, and that's the worst hole in the state, because at that time they weren't letting you order commissary. And some other holes around the state, you can order like $5 worth of you can order some peanuts or coffee or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Some little small items. Especially, like I said, man, you got guys that are doing 10, 15 years up in that place, man. So they got to give them something to keep them, satisfied, so to speak. But anyways, so I'm sitting in there, right? And I'm like, I'm going to get a program. But at this time, I had a homie that was my cellie, right? And so he was from Cali. He had been doing a lot of time. He had done a lot of time down there. And I remember one specific day, I'm talking to him, right? And I'm like, man, I'm getting these, because, after so much time in the hole, man, it's believe it or not, obviously, man, it starts taking an effect on your mind. I didn't really know it at the time while it was happening, but I started looking at things a little bit differently, man. And I started looking at things differently in a way that maybe the gang world, the gang culture would think that I'm soft. You know what I'm saying? They would say, oh man, you're after all these assaults that you've committed, you know what I'm saying? I guess they expected me to continue to be that same person, which I did for a little while. So I'm talking to him, right? And he's somebody that I confided in, that I was like, hey man, I can talk to him. You know what I'm saying? He's a good dude. He was an older dude. And I was telling him, like, hey man, I was watching this because at this time I was already in the hole for a while. So they gave me this little TV. I got a little TV in there. And I was watching this program on the Spanish channel, and it was showing, Mexicans, hardworking Mexicans, you know what I'm saying? Like older people, ya señores and señoras. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, dude, like, I felt sad. I felt some type of way, right? And I'm telling my homie about this, right? You know what he tells me? He's like, hey, so who are the people that you're fighting? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, you know, they're my enemy. You know what I'm saying? They're the opposition. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, but what are they? So I proceeded to be like, you know, naive and dumb. And I was just, you know, answering him with a bunch of slang, like disrespectful stuff, right? And he goes, nah, man, they're the same. They're the same people that you are. You know what I'm saying? You look at the color of your skin. You know what I'm saying? The things that you do, the things that the way you talk, the things that you like, the way that we're living. They're living the exact same way. So you have no right to feel no type of way. Because pretty much, essentially, he's saying I'm destroying my own culture. You know, and you know, and his words always stuck with me, man. When he told me that, I was like, you know, he's right. You know what I'm saying? And maybe he didn't mean to, but he planted a seed in my head. You know, because I was so I didn't see them as that. I didn't see them, and they didn't see me as that at the time. You know, I was just ready to. It was just go time. It was wartime. I didn't want to talk about nothing else. I didn't want to do nothing else. That was just what I wanted to do. I had forgotten about the outside world as far as like thinking that friends would be there for me, you know, writing me, and some did, some didn't, you know. But that's not here nor there. That's in the past, right? Nobody owes us an obligation for us to write us to send us money, man. They didn't make us go do what we did, right? So I didn't think of it that way. So you know, he's telling me all these things, and he's telling me, you know, like uh, that I have no right to feel a certain way towards my race because I'm fighting my own race. You know what I'm saying? That's all I've been doing. Uh, so anyways, I get kicked out of that hole, right? I get kicked out of that hole. I was there probably for like, I want to say 9 months, man. And then they started this program where you can get your hole, the time in the hole, uh, cut down. You know, you don't have to be. I had gotten like an 18-month program, I believe, at the time, and I only ended up doing 9 months in the hole there. I ended up doing 9 months in the hole, and they kicked me out. They kicked me out to back out to six wing. You know what I'm saying? But by this time, six wing was a medium custody. You know, so I had my points. You know, because in prison you have points. The more points you have, the better, right? You get to lower custody, or vice versa, man. I don't remember. It's been a really long time, but so I had the points to go to medium, right? To go to medium, they kicked me back because, like I said in my previous video, they turned the West Complex. That's the max custody. That's close custody. Six wing, eight wing, and seven wing now they're mediums, and I had my points, so they kicked me back out to the medium, right? And at this time, uh, one of my cellies, I won't say his name or where he was from, but he was an older dude, and he was a shot caller at the time. He was from a gang that's down there from Central America. You know, if you guys know what you know about gang world, you guys will know what I'm talking about. But I'm not gonna say it here. You know what I'm saying? But so he was from there, and he had a lot of power. You know, he had a lot of word on the yard. And he was another guy that started schooling me, man. He took a really liking to me. Like I said, man, I don't know what it was, but I think it was just the way that I carried myself. You know, that they seen that I was pretty much I was a lot older spiritually, right, in a sense, than and mentally than what my age was physically. You know, so he started schooling me. You know what I'm saying? And me and him became really really close, man. Like we became really really close, really good friends. And but he ended up leaving. He ended up leaving to another prison, and he ended up leaving me in charge as number two. He left the keys to another homie, right? And the keys are the person, you know. It's pretty much like, because they call the gang that is called the ride, and whoever has the keys is driving, right? So they're pretty much the leader of that time, in that prison. And so he made me a number two, so I was with him. So every decision that he made, that the homie made, he would run it by me, and we would decide what would be the best option. Uh, and so I'm sitting there in medium. Well, there's a lot of internal conflict going on at the time, right? There's a lot of internal conflict going on at the time with the people that I was with, because a lot of guys didn't see eye to eye as far as I have to be careful how I word this, man. I don't want to be disrespectful towards nobody. I'm just telling my life story, but so they were at odds, a lot of people, because people like myself and people like other guys that I know that are, you know what I'm saying, that are straight savages, straight riders, man, that we're gonna be front line in the war, you know what I'm saying? We were starting to think like, hey man, well, we're the ones doing all the work, man. We're the ones carrying all the burden, you know, as far as putting in the work and then going to the hole for long stretches of periods of time and not getting to see our families, you know what I'm saying? And not only that, dealing with everybody else around you that's in the hole. Like I said, there's a lot of weirdos in there, man. So a lot of people were like, nah, man, something's not adding up, man. Like, why are you guys in the position of power? You know what I'm saying? When you guys ain't done nothing, you know what I'm saying? You guys, been on the yard 15 years. You guys ain't done nothing in 14 years. That sort of thing, right? And I'm not speaking down on nobody, man, or nothing like that. I'm just saying that's just what it was. That's just a fact. Um, so there was a lot of internal conflict, and I was right there in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I wasn't an official member to this gang, to this organization. You know what I'm saying? And so I was kind of on the outskirts, but I was right there. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like the second in command, but it was you could still feel that a lot of guys had some type of, they felt some type of way that I was favored like that. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of crazy, because when you think about it, how was I favored, man? How was I favored when I caught so many assaults in prison? I did 6 years of solitary confinement over assaults. I didn't go to the hole over people telling on me. I went to the hole for actual hand-to-hand combat. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what it was, and there was a big player at the time that people, they try to move on them. You know what I'm saying? They try to move on them, and unfortunately, I got caught up in the mix. And they try to charge me with a felony in prison. They tried to give me an extra 10 years while I was in there. And a lot of people got hemmed up, man. A lot of people got hemmed up during this time, man. And I was under investigation. They sent me to the hole, right? They sent me right back to the hole, the one I was just talking about. They sent me right back to that hole. I was sitting under investigation. They wouldn't let me have no paper. They wouldn't let me have a pen. They wouldn't let me call my family. My family was calling the prison, like, hey, what's going on with my boy? What's going on with my son? We ain't heard from him. And they would just tell him, like, hey, well, he's under investigation. He can't talk, he can't write. I couldn't do nothing, man. Even the COs were like, hey, man, what did you do, man? Because man, they don't, because they had to have extra security on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was very rarely do they take away a person's phone privileges and their privileges to write. You know what I'm saying? To write letters home and stuff like that. And they took all that from me while I was under investigation, man. They took that from me for at least 3 months. And I'm sitting in there, right? I'm sitting in there. I couldn't have anything. So I'm really losing my mind, man. I'm like, man, this is gonna be, a really hard time for me, But I was already accustomed to doing time in the hole. I was just like, damn. But when they came at me talking about extra time, I was you know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, man, my mindset, I didn't care. I didn't give a fuck. So I was just like, man, it is what it is. I put myself in this situation. If they give me extra time, they're gonna give me extra time. But luckily, the situation didn't go through, so they couldn't press that charge on me, because it was something serious. So they dropped that charge. I still ended up getting assault and an offender. I got another infraction for gang participation, and and so when they came and got us over this incident, they came and got a lot of us, right? And they had to keep us segregated from each other, because we were communicating from prison to prison. Like I said, I was in six wing. A couple homies were in the West Complex. We were communicating, and you know what I'm saying, man. It was just prison life, man. Prison politics. Like I said, I can't get too much into it, but yeah, man, that's how it went down. You know what I'm saying? I just got caught up in that situation. They tried to come tell me to inform on certain people on why we were trying to do this and this and that, and then you know what I'm saying, man. It just 3 years in the hole, to let you know what I ended up doing. You know what I'm saying? Kept my mouth shut and I kept it pushing. You know what I'm saying? And so anyways, I'm sitting in the hole, right? I'm in the hole now, and I'm in there for 3 years. The investigation was completed, and they said, man, you know what, man, you've been in and out of the hole doing these programs. You know what? Just 36 months. Boom. 36 months IMU program. And I was just like, fuck, man, I'm in the worst hole in the state. They wouldn't transfer me because, like I said, they kept a lot of us segregated from each other. So they sent one homie to one prison, another homie to another, and another one to another. So I sat in there, man, for 3 years, man. I sat in there for 3 years, and it was the longest stretch of time, man, that I can imagine. When I think back on how I had to, this might sound crazy to some people, man, but I would literally have to create characters in my mind and act like they were in the room with me. And I would get my little cup of water, act like I was at a party or something like that, man. You know what I'm saying? I would be dancing because they give us a little radio. There's a lot of things that I did to try to entertain my mind. But man, there were stretches in there where the loneliness, man, where the quietness, like it seemed like it was infinite, man. Like it was just, there was times that I broke down. You know what I'm saying? I never broke like completely. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't be here today if I would have done that. But man, it was a really hard time in my life. And the way that I dealt with it, I would always find something to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? I would always look something to look forward to, whether it be I knew like, hey man, I'm gonna get a cupcake today, or tomorrow's gonna be this breakfast, something that small, something like that, man. And that's what gave me hope. Like a little cupcake, was keeping me alive. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew, I was like, man, that's something that I could look forward to. I had to find something every day to look forward to. If not, I would have lost my mind. Uh, so yeah, man, I'm sitting in there, and like I said, man, uh, now that I'm in there for those doing these 3 years in there, in the whole, I mean, shit, man, my crimey Ray was in the same prison that I had just left, right, in the West Complex. He was in that prison. When he was out in the yard, shout out to my crimey Ray. When he was out in the yard there in the West Complex, he would walk by, because he'd be in population on Mainline, and he would be walking the yard, and he could see my cell. Obviously he can't see me because it's just, it's a little tiny ass window. But he reminded me all the time, like, man, I remember walking by that, man, knowing you were in there. And he would get feel a certain way, man, because I was his boy. I'm sitting in there locked up like an animal, man, for 3 years. And so yeah, man, I sat there, and I met, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do another episode too. It's gonna be on something else, but I met one of my boys, man, one of my really good friends, Baltimore, man. He's from Maryland. His name's B More. They call him B More. He's from an organization down there in Maryland, man, a straight killer. He got interstate compact up. He got sent up here from Maryland. Due to him stabbing some dudes down there, came up here, stabbed a couple dudes up here. But he was an African American, man. He was cool as hell, man. That dude, and he was a big ass dude, right? Big old black dude. But all that dude like listened to was Taylor Swift, man. He was in love with that chick. But anyways, that's where I met him, and getting to know people like that, man, and in the whole, cause he was since he stabbed a couple people, he was like he was getting escorted everywhere out the cell. He had to get shackled on his ankles, around his waist, on his hands. He had to have like 6 COs escort him. That dude was a bad dude, man. And so he befriended me because he knew that they took my phone from me, they took my pen and stuff from me. He's like, hey man, well, what's going on? And he had gotten along with a lot of the people that I was running with, so that's how we became really good friends. His name's William Baker, man. Shout out to the homie B More, man. But excuse me. So I'm sitting in there for those 3 years, right? They kicked me out. They end up kicking me out of the hole finally, and I come out there. They kick me out with another homie the day I get out. The day I get out the hole, man, I get out the hole, and they let me out with another homie which was he ended up being my cellie. They let us live together because he was, he was a gang member, that one of the guys that I ran with. And so I get out there, man, the first day, because like I said before, man, in that hole that I was in for those 3 years, you don't go outside. So I didn't get no sun. So when I came out of the hole from IMU North, man, I was looking like a vampire. You know what I'm saying? I was pale as hell. I probably could have started in Twilight. But so yeah, man, they let me out the hole. They let me out the hole. And I see a lot of homies that ain't seen me in years, and they're like, hey man, whoa shit. That's the homie, man. And like, damn, fool, where you been? But it's like, I've been buried, man. I've been buried. You know what I'm saying? And even then, doubt was already in my head if I could continue this life. When I was doing those 3 years, I was already like, man, can I sustain this lifestyle, man, with what I'm doing? Can my mind, not my body, because I was ready to go, but my mind. But anyways, I get out the hole, and I go now. Now those units are after those 3 years, things done changed. Those units no longer are. There's 2 units for the side, one side, and there's 2 units for the other side now. So they sent me over here to. I went to G Unit, I believe. I went to G Unit, and I was there for a while. But when I got out the hole, there was a big old issue. There was a big issue about, I had to come out of the hole, show my paperwork, because the reason why for what I went in there wasn't something small, you know what I'm saying? And so I met up with a shot caller at the time, because when the West Complex, if I'm in G Unit, I don't really get to hang out with the guys from F Unit unless we go to the law library. And so I met up with a homie up at the law library, and he's really well known, man. He's a heavy hitter. And so I was kind of intimidated, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie. man, I think that when I got out the hole, I was the most paranoid, the most stressed that I've ever been doing time, because I thought that I was like, man, my time's gonna come. You know what I'm saying? These guys are gonna make a move on me, but I was ready. Um, but I went up to meet up with the homie, and you know, he checked out my stuff, and he's like, yeah, man, you're all good, homie. You know, and with his word, that was it. There was no more issue, man. So I ended up moving. They let me, I'm sitting there in G Unit for a while now. One of my really good really good friends. Charles, he's a white dude, you know, that ran with the with the side that I was running with. You know, he was a gang member. He's a lifer now. He caught life in prison. I'm gonna tell his story. I just got a hold of him. So I'm gonna be telling him, having him on. You know, if I get the video, call him. He's doing life right now. He caught life in there over some gang stuff. You know what I'm saying? But he was there right across from me, so I could sign to him. You know, and that's one thing that I learned in there, is how to sign, like sign language. You know what I'm saying? And so we would be signing. So here's the unit, right? Here's G unit. Here's F unit. So whatever cells are facing, you could sign to him. You know what I'm saying? And I would sign to him all the time, and he's the one that would send me messages like. And what you would do is, because you know you're not at your window 24/7. You know what I'm saying? You'd have to be standing at your window. So what you do is you get an envelope, like the mail envelope, and you put it on your window with a piece of tape. You hang it on your window, and he does the same thing on his side. You know, on his side of the unit. So once you see the envelope, you just sit there and wait. That means you got mail. You take it down, you start signing. You know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments you guys want me. You guys want to see me sign, man? I'm probably one of the fastest this side of the Mississippi. But yeah. Anyways, man, let's get back to the story. So I'll go up to meet with the homie, and you know, he's like, nah, man, you're good, homie. You know what I'm saying? You do nothing wrong. So I ended up selling up at the time. I ended up selling up with another homie that was a shot caller. He became the shot caller. And you know, like I said, man, that's who the people that I surrounded myself around, because that's who the people that I could learn from. You know, how to move on certain situations, on what to do, how to make the right decision. Because in prison, man, there's a lot of favoritism. You know what I'm saying? If there's a certain gang on the yard and their numbers are hella up, no matter what, no matter if they're your homies, like they're gonna have word. You know, I mean, that's how it was when I was locked up. You know, which was a problem also. The internal conflict was, you know, people that belongs to one gang, and just because they're homies from the same gang, they give them the keys and make them a shot caller, even though those guys ain't done nothing or been tested. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, so yeah, man, I go meet up with him, and it was all good. They put me in I moved in with my other cellie. You know what I'm saying? I was a shot caller, and he ended up going to the hole. Check this out, right? This is where it gets kind of. This is where I start realizing, like, deep down inside, as a man, like, this is where I was like, man, as a man, what am I doing? You know, as a man, I got to stand up for myself. Well, where the seed started planting itself, so my celly, right, he's a shot caller, like I said. He ended up going to the hole. And let me tell you something, man. A lot of guys, a lot of dudes that were hella cool with him, that were like, hey, man, I mean, they would kiss his ass, man. Like, let's be honest. Like, that's just being real. And he ended up going to the hole over an incident where there was like I said, the two units are separated, right? But they still go to school. They go to school in different units that, but like D and E will go at a certain time, like in the morning. G and F will go at night, and they switch it up, and you know, they switch it up every now and then. Well, some way, somehow, there was a rival from one of the other units that kind of he pretty much, man, like hid somewhere and got into the classroom where there was three homies at the time, and he went on and he fired on them. You know what I'm saying? He ended up getting jumped, obviously, but my homie that was a shot caller, he was there. He was at the other end of the classroom, so he didn't have time to run over and jump in. So as soon as he goes, that's how I'm telling you, man. That's how this game is wicked, man. He ended up going to the hole. The day he went to the hole, there was people, his homies were campaigning against him to take him off the yard because he didn't jump in. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, he should have done something. Like, hey, homie, look, you gotta think about it, man. That's already two homies that on one. You're gonna lose another homie off the yard to jump one guy. Like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, I understand. Like, if it was me, I would have done it. I would have, just because of the muscle. That's just how I am. So anyways, he ended up going to a hole. They're trying to campaign against him. You know what I'm saying? I tell the homies, I tell a couple of the homies, like, hey, wait, well, that's my friend, man. Like, if you guys gonna drop him, man, like, I'm gonna stand next to him, man, because it ain't right. You know what I'm saying? And so they ended up just, you know, giving him a little chequeada, you know what I'm saying? And for not doing anything. And so yeah, I'm already thinking, man. I'm already looking at it like, man, these guys, you know what I'm saying? It's a dog eat dog world, man. Like at the moment you show any weakness, man, it's a problem, man. Like you can't even show emotion. You can't even feel sorry for a person, man. You know what I'm saying? And so, anyways, he gets out the hole. They put him in it. But look, so let me get back to the story. What happened was the homie ended up giving me the keys, right? He ended up giving me the keys. He ended up giving me the keys, and there were some people that were on board, right? There were some people that were like, "Hey, man, well, yeah, you know, this dude been putting in work, man. This dude, you know what I'm saying? He been frontlining." And but a lot of the older cats, man, a lot of the older cats, they were like, "Nah, there's no way that this guy could be a shot caller. There's no way he can have the keys. He's not one of us." You know what I'm saying? Pretty much. That's what they said, man. He said he's not one of us. So, man, that shit right there was a psychological mind fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, man, what? Like, how am I not one of? If anything, man, if anything, you know what I'm saying? I've earned my right. I'm not somebody that just because I belong to something, I'm automatically, perceived a certain way. I earn my respect. I earn my perception. I earn the way people talk about me in the manner that they do. Um, but you know what? I let it go because I'm one man. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go against an army, which I should have done. But later on in my story, you know what I'm saying? We'll get there. Um, but anyways, man, that shit really hurt me, man. When they did that, when they were like, nah, that shit. It not only it embarrassed me, man. It embarrassed me and it made me feel a type of way. Like, man, that shit really made me feel used. You know what I'm saying? Like more used than anybody has ever used me in my life. You know, and uh, and I've been through some pretty hard shit in my life, man. And that was one of the hardest right there because these dudes at the time, that was my family. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the people that was like, all right, they're with me 24/7. These are the people I count on that if something's gonna happen to me, like that. Who's to say if someone's gonna be like, hey, who's to say that if something was to happen to me, those guys were like, well, he's not one of us. You know, after all the years that I lost, man, all the years. That's what I try to tell people all the time. Like, look, man, at the end of the day, nobody's gonna care about you. The only reason certain people cared about me and fuck with me at that time was because they knew they were safe. You know what I'm saying? They knew like, fuck, if somebody shows up and there's a problem, D's gonna handle it. And like, I'm not the biggest or the baddest, man. Like I said that many times, but what I did have was heart. You know what I'm saying? And that shit, you can't buy that. You know, you can't be taught that. So yeah, man, I started holding a little grudge. You know what I'm saying? After that, I was just like, I had maybe at that time, after those 3 years, I had maybe another year and a half to do left on my sentence, right? I had like 13 more months. I had like 18 more months left on my sentence. Um, and they started shipping out certain homies out of these prisons because they were trying to integrate, the people that we're at odds with. They were trying to integrate all of us together, like on the medium yards, though. And the homies started, politicking, started sending word out to the mediums, like, hey, it's time to crack it off in the mediums now, not just in the close custodies. We got to crack it off everywhere. And they sent word that whoever didn't do it, whoever wasn't on board, that they were gonna get got. You know what I'm saying? And that was the word going around. But the problem was that in the West Complex, they weren't letting homies leave that compound to mediums because they knew, oh, you guys are gonna go over there and kick off some shit. You guys are gonna go over there and start politicking, try to kick off the war in the mediums like you guys did in the close custody. But they ended up. So what happened was, in order for you to go to medium in the West Complex at this time, you had to go talk to gang investigators, right? Like, and it don't matter who it was, white, Mexican, it don't matter, black, Asian, Uso, don't matter. In order to leave that compound, you had to go talk to gang investigators. So the homies, they didn't trust nobody, right? They didn't trust homies that had just started doing time. They didn't trust homies that that they hadn't put in no work because they knew like, hey, we can't trust this guy's gonna go to medium and gonna get too comfortable. He's gonna want to stay there, because in the mediums you got a lot more freedom. You get a lot more, buy more food, you get a lot more out time, you get a lot more visits. So they didn't trust nobody to go to these mediums, and except people like myself. And there was another homie, and I was just, man, look, like I said, at that time I was so tired of being around these guys, man. I didn't give a fuck how I had to do it, but I needed to get away out of that situation because of the way that they did me, man. The way that they were like, well, he's not one of us. He pretty much can't he can't climb the ladder no more in our organization or in our gang, right? And at the time, man, like I was so lost that it meant a lot to me, like that was my world, that world that I lived in. And so I signed up, yeah, and like people might think that it's ridiculous, but I signed up. I went to the homie. I was like, hey, wait, look, I'm one of these guys that can be trustworthy. I've done all this time. I've put in all this work. Let me go to this medium. Let me go with the homie, and we're gonna crack it off. But they thought that I was just wanting to do it because I just, because I'm a rider, because I'm a savage. I wanted to do it, man, because I would rather go commit another assault and go do my last year and a half by myself in a cell and not have to worry about these guys, man. I was that shit changed my whole mindset when that happened. But I couldn't let them know that, right? I couldn't be there like, hey, man, you guys hurt my feelings. It was like, it is what it is, man. All right. What can I do? I'm just one man. So they ended up telling me and the other homie, like, all right, you two are going to be the ones that we entrust to go down to get transferred to these mediums. And when you get there, the very next day, you guys need to crack it off, pretty much meaning that we need to go and assault the rivals that we have there on that compound. And, so we ended up going talk to, and they, the gang investigators just asked us like, you guys gonna do anything? Simple questions, man. Obviously, a motherfucker ain't gonna tell anything that's that's gonna come back on the gang, so or yourself. So we're simple questions. All right, boom. They let us. All right, you guys are gonna be getting shipped out. We end up going. We end up going back to Airway Heights. They end up shipping us out. They end up shipping us out together. They shipped us out both at the same time to go to the same prison. So we're like, perfect, man. And the instructions were, hey, when we get there, homie, the very next day, we're gonna go to the yard and we're gonna crack it off. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna tell no homies because we didn't trust them. Even your own people, you can't trust them because you're like, these guys ain't been tested. They ain't battle tested, man. And what does the homie do when we get there? He goes and talks to one of his homies from his neighborhood, from his gang, from a certain neighborhood that he's from. They start walking the yard. They call me up, and I'm like, oh, shit. Say, hey, so I already told the homie what's going to happen. I already knew, man. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, well, homie, like, this is what it's going to be. If you guys are not on board, that's fine. That's on you guys, man. But just know when you guys go back to Walla Walla, you guys got to answer for that. And the other homie they were walking with was like, all right, all right. So he ends up going and tells a bunch of other homies. So then all these guys start freaking out like, fuck. We're going to go, we're going to get into a riot. These guys came here to crack off a riot. I was there, man, in that prison. I want to say I was there less than 48 hours, me and the homie, because what ended up happening was the shot caller there ended up catching word of what was going to go down, that what me and the homie came to do. And he ended up calling a meeting with me and three other homies that were his, his people. And he's like, hey, man, so I heard you came down here trying to crack this off. And I was like, yeah, man, that's what it is. I'm like, you belong to something that you're not going to have a say so, like, as far as like what's not going to happen, man. The majority of the people that are in charge, they already said it's going to go down. It's just what's going to happen. And I'm here to do it. Me and the homie came here to do it. If you guys don't want to do it, that's all right. Just know you guys, and the homie, I'll give him his credit. He said, the homie said, we were sitting there at the table, and he said, nah, D, he's like, why don't you stay here? He's like, how about me? How about I go do it with the homies here? We go do it. We go crack it off, and you stay, because a lot of these little homies, they don't have no clecha, no knowledge. Maybe they need somebody like you around so you could teach them some things. But, you guys already, like I just said, my whole plan was to get the fuck away from all that, I just wanted to go crack this off, man. Let off one more freaking, I don't know what to call it, man, but I just needed to get something off my chest over what had been done. And so they're like, he said, hey, man, well, I'll go do it. I said, nah, man, I'm good. I'm going to handle it. Like, if you guys want to come along, that's on y'all. If not, then I'm good either way. I'm just going to run in the middle of these dudes, and I'm going to take off on as much as I can. And so I'm sitting there, right? We had this little meeting. I go back up to my cell. They're about to call dinner. And sure enough, man, they come, knock on my door. Hey, turn around, cuff up. What? Get off my bunk. What are you talking about? Turn around and cuff up. Boom, take me straight to the hole. And yup, sure enough, they took me to the hole, me and the homie. I see him. They come and they're escorting him to the hole. And like 2 days later, I believe, they came and gave me, the gang investigators came and pulled me out, showed me 5 notes. They're called kites, right? 5 kites from 5 different people telling the gang investigators what me and the homie came to do, because they were afraid to go to the hole. They were afraid to go to the hole, do a bunch of time, go to Walla Walla, because that's real time, that's gangland. And a lot of people don't want to do that, man. And I don't blame them. I didn't want to do it. I just got caught up and brainwashed my own mind, and I was in the middle of it. So I don't blame them, but at the time I was pissed off, man. I was pissed off, like, man, you guys ain't done nothing to earn your tattoos, ain't done nothing to earn your name, ain't done nothing, and you guys want to sit here and be gang banging and not do nothing, man. Just sit around and so. But you know what, man? That's my mindset at the time, man. Please don't think that that's the way I think now. Like I said, man, I was a lost person at the time, man, and so well. Anyways, man, what ended up happening was, sure enough, they gave me a program. They gave me a program, and they gave me a program because they gave me me and the homie like trying to incite a riot. So they kept me in the hole. They kept me in the hole. They gave me a year program. I only had a year and a half left on my sentence. A year and some change now. So let me get into this, man. Like, this is gonna be one of my last episodes of my story, of my prison story. Because this is where I made my decision at this point in time when I'm in the hole in Airway Heights. I ended up writing a letter. I ended up writing a letter while I'm sitting in the hole, right? To all the shot callers, most of the ones that I knew that I got along with. And one of them was the homie that they tried to take out because he didn't jump into the thing. I sent him a letter. You know what they did? These guys, man, and I explained in the letter, man, that the reasons why I no longer wanted to be a part of what they had going on. No disrespect, you know what I'm saying? I just after what had happened, them telling me that I wasn't one of them, that I couldn't be in a certain position, it pretty much solidified my decision. But what ended up happening, man, these guys, some of the guys ended up taking my letters that I wrote them to the yard and showing them to the homies, calling me weak, calling me a bitch, that I'm a punk, this and that, you know what I'm saying? And so I ended up finding this out, later on that they did that, you know what I'm saying, that they took my letters out there and these are people, man, that I got close to, met my family, I met their families, that type of thing. And it really changed, and it really, everybody that I met at that time when I was in the hole, everybody, because this was a surprise to a lot of people, man. It was like, what the fuck, like, there ain't no way, man, there ain't no way that D's calling it quits, man, there ain't no way. And a lot of people that I was getting transferred to another hole because I caught a program. I was getting transferred to Stafford Creek. I would meet up, I would go to a prison. I'd be in the hole. I'd meet up with other homies, and I'd tell them right away, hey, man, I don't run with you guys no more, man. You can talk to me if you want to talk to me. If you don't, that's fine too. It's all right. Because at this time, man, I'm in my head. I'm just, it was one of the loneliest, and everybody quit talking to me, man. Everybody quit talking to me. You're talking about the white boys, the raza, the homies. So it was one of the loneliest times of my life, man. And it was all right though, because I made the decision. Because let me tell you guys this: when I was sitting in the hole, listen to this, and listen to this carefully, man. When I was sitting in the hole, right, I asked myself, what kind of a coward was I? Am I a coward? Am I a coward for following these guys? Or am I a coward for calling it quits? And ultimately, I told myself, I'm a coward for following these guys, man. I'm a coward for doing something that's no longer in my heart, that's no longer in my mind. You know what I'm saying? And I said, fuck it. Whatever's going to happen to me is going to happen to me. And I wrote those letters, you know what I'm saying? And I wrote those letters not thinking that I'm a badass or nothing. I wrote those letters knowing the consequences of my actions. Knowing what was going to come to me, knowing that everybody shunned me, that I thought, would at least give me a break because I'm not a gang member. You know what I'm saying? I was just a motherfucker that was there on the front lines, throwing my life away for people that at the end of the day, they showed their true colors to me. But they turned it around. They turned it around on me. They pretty much, they exiled me, man. Like that was it. You know what I'm saying? And I was fine with it. I was sitting in the hole, man, nobody talking to me. And I knew I was getting out soon. So that was the most important thing. But I knew that I had something coming to me because, like I said, I had a year left on my sentence, or I had like a year and some change, and I only had a year program. So I knew I was gonna go back out to mainline. I knew that there was a potential chance that that they were gonna get at me. You know what I'm saying? That they were gonna try to take me out. When I interview my homie Ray, we're gonna elaborate on this, right? Because he was there. My crimey Ray, he was in the middle of all this, not in the middle of, but he's my crimey, and he he's still close with these people. So they're talking to him about me, but my boy always stood tall for me, man. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so I'm doing this time in the hole, right? And it's like I said, it's the loneliest time. I mean, I've done time in the hole, you know, like on my last time, 3 years, man. I did 3 years straight, nothing, man. Not like it was nothing. It definitely affected me, but my mind at the time, my heart in my mind and my heart so much that it didn't affect me at the time. But this time, you know, I had nobody to talk to. Um, everybody's looking at me like I'm a piece of garbage. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what my record says, you know what I'm saying, which would say the opposite. um, but so I'm sitting there, right, and they come to me, the counselor. He comes to me and he tells me, he says, "Hey, you know that you have to get released back out to mainline before you go home." I was like, what? Yeah, I know that. I got, you know, I have. He's like, no, you have to go back out there because under the state law, they can't release me straight from the hole to the streets, you know, because I had done all this time. They seen my file, and they said, well, man, you've been doing time in the hole since you were 16 years old. There's no way we can release you to the streets after doing a stretch in the hole back. You have to go back out there and get used to being around people again. So you have to go back out to population. And you know, most guys would ask for protection. You know, like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna get hurt out there. I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna do that. Uh, all right, fuck it. I gotta go. I gotta go back out there. All right. So yeah. So they sent me. Uh, I knew I'm going back out to mainline, right? And before you go, you know, they don't tell you the day you're getting transferred. So maybe I was, after they told me I was gonna be getting transferred, like back out to a mainline. You know, man, I'm getting ready for war. You know what I'm saying? Not only with one side, but with two sides now. You know, um, and it's unexplainable, man. The way that it felt. You know what I'm saying? The fear, because it goes from fear to like you battling that fear and trying to overcome that fear to you like shunning that out, becoming stoic and just saying, you know, fuck it. Like it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So I ended up going. They ended up, like I said, man. They said I couldn't get out there. They ended up letting me out. I ended up going to. I ended up going to Airway Heights. Because it was a medium and I only had 30 days left. So they said, yep, Sanchez, you're going to medium. You're going out to Airway Heights. So you know, I'm preparing myself, man, mentally. And they kick me back out there. I get there, right, and I'm you know, my mind, man, is running a million thoughts, man, a second, right? Because I'm paranoid. I'm like I'm the target now, right? And but what ended up happening is, man, I went to breakfast. I went to lunch that day. And I seen this guy that he had a reputation in prison, right? He was walking towards me on the breezeway, just big old long walk to go to the chow hall. And he's been down, you know, for a long time, 18, 19 years at that time. He was a shot caller there. And he comes up to me and he asked me my name, right? And I'm already ready because I'm like, you know, this is where it's gonna happen. This is it right here. And he's like, hey, this is who you are. And I said, yeah, Simon. He's like, hey man, check it out. I know who you are. I've heard what you've done. Do your 30 days and go home, homie. And don't get involved in no gang politics while you're here. Don't get involved in nothing. Just do your 30 days and go home, you know. So he gave me a pass because as easily he could have sent 2-3 guys at me that yard. That same day, that yard, he could have sent at least 2 to 3 guys to get me, you know what I'm saying? And he didn't. And I think he probably seen me and he's seen in my eyes was a kid, you know what I'm saying? Because he had heard how I had grown up in there, you know. So I think he has compassion for me, man. And shout out to him, man. You know, in my last 30 days there. And there was a lot of homies, like I said, there was a lot of homies that still try to kick it with me, that would say, hey man, D, because they had heard all the stories about me. But I would politely be like, hey homie, I'm not, no disrespect, but I don't want to be seen like if I'm with you guys, you know what I'm saying? Because it's gonna bring trouble to me. Like I'm gonna have to, if you guys get into something, people are gonna think that I'm aligned with you guys still, and I don't want that, you know. Obviously I wasn't disrespectful about it. I still shake hands with certain people. But yeah, man, that was my journey, man, through prison. But I still haven't got released yet, so I'm gonna my next video, that's gonna be the grand finale, man, so to speak, on my release. You know, there's gonna be a special episode for me. I've been out almost 10 years now. I haven't gone back. You know what I'm saying? It's been a crazy journey, man. Thank you guys for checking out my content. And don't forget to comment your guys' random number. Don't forget to comment your random number to win the grand prize, $100 worth of Mexican candy and snacks. The homie showdown is gonna put $25 on top of that. And my crimey Ray is gonna put an original art piece that he's gonna draw, that was drawn on a handkerchief, a cloth. You know what I'm saying? Prison art. So hey man, once again, thank you guys, and tune in for next episode on how the day that I get released, man. I'm sorry for stuttering like that, but hey, you guys have a good one. Thank you guys, and I'm out.